But that's not a colonial history. What we need you to do is to respond reflexively to white colonial authority, white people included. That's your education. That's your history. If you'd like to break free from that, here's how you do it. First, you realize you're in it. This is how colonialism works. Harriet Tubman once said, she was being interviewed last days of her life. And they said, how did you do it, Harriet? How did you, this little woman, how did you do it? She said, you know, I never lost a passenger on my train, on my railroad. I never lost a passenger. And here's the real part. Here's the piece right here. She said, I could have saved more people if they knew they were slaves. Quote, end quote. By the way, I could have saved more people if they knew they were slaves. This is Harriet Tubman. She said, the ones that I'm saving knew they were slaves. Everybody else was like, what's your problem? So what, BET plays black women as hoes and bitches on every day? What's the problem? Right? This is how people think it. This is how you know you're colonial. Because criminality becomes your pleasure. That's when you know you're a colonial mad person. When you can laugh at a person getting shot. When you can spend $12, $15 on a movie that shows mass murder. We cheer for mass murder. Then Las Vegas jumps off, takes it to the real life. Pop, 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 out the window of the hotel. Now it's, oh my God, how did we get here? America, the gun laws. We got to talk guns. We got to. We just left the theater. We just left the theater. Tom Cruise just killed 100 people. We cheered, ate the popcorn, went outside. This has no effect on us. We're not desensitized to kidnap, rape, theft, and murder. We're not desensitized to that. Like we become numb. We become so numb. This is when you know you're colonial. This is the true reason for black history, because a racist will never call themselves whatever black freedom fighters are going to call themselves. I don't have time to get into this today, but this is the whole argument over the word nigger. N-I-G-G-A versus N-I-G-G-E-R. It's a whole argument on that. And it has a lot to do with how you perceive yourself. And that's why I bring this little piece up right here, and I can't get into it. Maybe during Q&A we could talk further on it. But the question here is, which would you rather be called? A racist or a nigger? This is the question you got to ask yourself. I know we don't like the word. African Americans hate the word nigger. Hip-hoppers, we love that shit. Nigger, my nigger. Straight up. This is a black community though. We torn, we split. Look at this. Just look at the word. Why is that a problem? Jay-Z comes up and says to Oprah, listen, we changed the word. We changed it. We don't say nigger, neger. We don't say that. We say nigger. That's our word. N-I-G-G-A. Oprah said, no. Last time when I hear nigger, I think about people hanging from trees. Now, Jay-Z just explained himself. And I'm showing you colonialism. Jay-Z explained himself and explained it for all of us. First of all, he accurately told Oprah, we're not saying nigger. We saying nigger. That's my brother. That's my sister. We changed the word. It is a racist word. That's why we changed it. Oprah said, forget that. You're an ignorant nigger. And so, the explanation goes out the window. Your mentality doesn't matter in a colonial world. Your view does not matter. When you cannot understand the view of the other, you're colonial. When you refuse to understand the otherness of someone, you become colonial. When you think of people as lesser and greater, you become colonial. When you say this one is more intelligent than that one, you're colonial. God as man, you're colonial. These are all colonial concepts. And I know you don't want to get rid of that, but it's colonial. Especially when it deals with African culture, we praise the mother, the goddess, matriarch societies from the beginning of society. Where this man thing come from? We don't want to get rid of that. We don't want to hail up women. My teacher is Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael in the 60s. When I was touring with him in the 90s, he told me, he said, yo, here's the problem. He said 2 problems with the civil rights movement. 1, he said, we had only one charismatic leader. When they shot the leader, the whole movement went away. He said, from now on, if you really in the struggle, every one of us have to be leaders. Every single person. If you stand next to the leader, you got to be ready to lead. Second thing he said, this is Kwame Ture. He said, second thing, he said, we kept the women in the back. He said that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. He said women were planning meetings, planning revolutionary struggle, doing pretty much everything. You could just look at the Black Panther Party, ran by women. Nation of Islam, ran by women. The UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Agency, Marcus Garvey, ran by women. But when it was time for recognition, the man was put up front, and he was powerless. Because the one who really kicked off the Montgomery bus boycott was a woman. Rosa Parks, she's the one that said, I'm not getting up. We're going to start a movement right here today. Dr. King, the Honorable Dr. King, he joined in on her movement. That's how he got heard. But here's the problem. We talk revolution, revolution, revolution all day. And then women are not in their proper place as leaders. Women are looking down on themselves. Women don't even want to be women anymore. Women want to do everything men do. Where's the femininity? What happened to motherhood? Where's the respect for that? No, women want to compete like men. I'm just as strong, I can do it. No. Not your culture. You may feel that way. But if you're interested in your African culture, that ain't how you were supposed to act. You was the queen. Men only existed to protect and serve you. That was the male's existence. That's the reason for being a man, is to protect the queen. You have no other existence. Everything else is colonial. Your one purpose in life is to protect the queen. When we fail to understand that, we're colonial. In fact, we've been colonized. If you can watch somebody put a rope around your mother's neck and you stand there, you've been colonized. If you can allow somebody to put their hands on your children, you've been colonized. And that's what most of the African American community is today, a colonized population. That's why we act like we act. This is why we act the way we act. You see the cops shooting at us every day. They just took it off the news. But you don't think Freddie Gray's happening every week? Every week? They just took it off the news. They got other things they're talking about now. So the minute they take it off the news, what happens to us? Oh, well, there it is. I threw my brick. I yelled my voice. I attended the meeting. Next week, you back on the plantation. This is what your history is supposed to free you from. It's supposed to show you. The good you, the bad you. That's what African studies is supposed to be about. Africa ain't no happy place. Only Pan-African is. And I say that because my teacher's Pan-African, Kwame Ture, no doubt. But here you have Pan-Africanists. We're going back to Africa. No, you're not. Africans are competing against you. See, when you're colonial, You still looking down on the African. Let's talk real quick, my last 15 minutes. There's always been a problem between African Americans and Africans, and then African American, Africans, and Jamaicans. Then African Americans, Africans, Jamaicans, and Haitians. None of us getting along. Everybody got their nose up. Everybody think they better than everybody else. Everybody running. What are we doing? What we're doing is we're being colonial. That's what we're being. We're being like the oppressors that trained us. Once we realize that we are humanity itself, black people, you are the beginning of all of humanity itself. All of it. All of it. There's no history before our history. All history comes from our history. Let's just keep it real here real quick. There's no history before black history. So we can't call black history. This is human awareness. Everyone needs to know black history. And here's why. Let's talk about our white brothers real quick. Sisters. I mentioned briefly about the abolitionists. Let's go deeper into the origins of humans. I've been working this theory out. I'm going to give you this theory now. It's a theory because all human origin commentary is a theory. No one knows for sure. But I want to take you back to the Homo aquatic theory because this is part of black history. Black history, you can take it back to Kemet. Egypt is one of the oldest written histories we have, this book that you can call black history. In fact, the history of Kush relates directly to African Americans. Can't get into it now with the whole slave trade, Sudanese. Do research on the Sudan right now as we speak. The same colonial forces are in the Sudan right now as we speak. Same colonial forces. Do research on this so you can understand your history. Why are these same colonial forces in South Africa, in the Sudan, where the diamonds and the oil and the gold and the nickel and all of that is? Why are we, you good? Why are we, well, I'll put it this way. Do the research into the Sudan, and it'll substantiate what I'm about to say to you now. I don't have time to go deeper into it. But just look up, $50 billion of the U.S. was paid by Saudi Arabia to buy weapons of mass destruction to go blow up the Sudan. Britain as well made about $20 billion on the deal as well to buy weapons. Saudi Arabia is buying silence from the United States and from Britain so that they can go in and kill black people. These are Arabs killing black people. This is what's going on right now as I speak. But you can go all the way back to Rome. And Rome's conquest, which is where colonialism really begins, the kind we're suffering from, begins really with Rome, with Greece, and so on. But let me come back to my white brothers and sisters. I bring this up because black history being the world's human history, get this for a minute. Kemetic origins, Egyptian origins, even Kushites, this even goes back to Kush, Nubia. They said that at the beginning of the world, there was an ocean. And out of this ocean, a landmass appeared out of the ocean. They called it Waret. Appeared. And a person, a being, a man, appeared on the island. And this is the beginning of human existence in the world. And this first being was a god, obviously. They called him Atum. This god. Now, Matthew Atter, scholar, talks about the Kemetic origin of humanity being volcanism, meaning that yes, all scientists, paleoanthropologists agree that the world most likely was all water. But volcanism, volcanoes erupted is how land is created. So you have this water, and then you have volcanoes spewing out the center of the earth, creating land in this water.
Excuse me, teacher, we have time.
There. In this land. And then you have a being of some sort hopping on this land. Now, go back. What kind of being was this? If you go with the Homo aquatic theory, the human beings or the beings that hopped on this land was already in the water, first of all. They were not created by the land. They were already in the water. Humanity, whatever we were, was already in the water, according to this theory. Land emerges and we come out of water onto the land. Now, if you go with the Homo aquatic theory, then the first human to step out of the water was a white man, white woman, not black. Meaning that when you're in water, there's no pigmentation. There's no sun. There's no melanin. There's none of that. You're in the water. In fact, when black people, you notice that when your hands are in water for too long, they turn white. And we notice that whenever we are cut off from the sun, we lighten up. Whenever we are in water, we lighten up. Whenever we're in colder weather, we lighten up. So the theory is that this black skin is not natural. It is actually an effect of the environment in which I'm living in. But if the first humans walked out of water, they would not have had black skin. Now, when you look at this, the Homo aquatic theory, you see that first human coming out of water with no pigmentation on them, no melanin, no darkness about them, they come out the water white or gray or a lighter, even green, blue, gray. These are the colors of the ocean and of ocean creatures. They would have came out the ocean a lighter shade of something, walking on all fours, feet, hands, you walking on all fours, you getting hit by the sun, walking on all fours. Why is this important? Because when black people, when we look at our hand, why is this the complexion of white people and this is not? Most dark-skinned people, the palms of our hands and the palm of our feet are white. That's the complexion of white people. Our palms of our hands are the complexions of white people. So there's something to be said about that early human walking on all fours, getting hit by the sun, but not getting hit on what they're walking on, which reveals who we were originally. Now, of course, that may be too much for some people to deal with. That's why it's called a theory. That's why it's called a theory. But I gave you the Homo aquatic theory because this theory is also part of what? Black history. If we're going to discuss black history, and we're going to discuss the origins of humanity itself, you've got to leave race out of it. You're going to have to deal with truth. The truth of the matter is that the original man may be a white man. Black man, can you deal with that? That deep down inside, you may actually be the white man yourself. But I bring this up to stretch your head out a little bit on what black history can be. It doesn't have to be just Frederick Douglass and Nat Turner and a few dates and this, that. It's time for us to think. It's time for us to think. Think about who we are as beings. and how we might relate to one another as beings. I don't have to be first. That's colonial. I don't have to be last. That's colonial. I have to exist and know my existence. I have to know why I am, not what I am. Why am I at this particular time? Why am I? So in closing, I know I got 5 minutes. Probably no minutes. 5 minutes, I'll steal that 5. In closing, what I want to impart to you as we open up, do I have time for Q&A?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, let me hurry up then. Bring this all together. What you're looking at is black and history. Black history should inspire you to be better human beings, because that's what black history is. It's the history of humanity, not an African American. Black history is not the history of slavery. Black history is not the history of struggle. Black history you can find in the Bible. You can deal with that. The first place mentioned in the Bible, actually, for humanity is Ethiopia. That's in the Bible. That's just in the Torah. Black history is all around you. But if white people continue to say, well, that's their history, we ain't getting nowhere as a people, or none of us, white, black, nobody, getting anywhere as a people. Go back and read the I Have a Dream speech, magnificent speech, where Dr. King talks about a biracial army, where he says you can't do it alone, neither one of us. We're going to have to unite and do something bigger than the both of us, bigger than us individually. This is Dr. King. If you're conscious, you're not studying black history, you're living it. You're creating it. You're maintaining it. So understand how black history affects the mind. One, it shows you colonialism. It shows you the prison system. It shows you where you're trapped. It shows you how to get out. This is black history. Strategies for how to get rid of colonialism and oppression. And how do you do that? One, realize that you're in it first. Then, start pointing out your character versus the colonial character. The colonial character believes in greater and lesser human beings. This is the beginning. Greater and less. Once you get rid of that idea, and you're able to sit down with any human being on the earth, anyone, not with judgment. It's hard because you're trained in colonial schools. So you sit down with somebody, first thing you see is their race, because that's how you're trained. But if you begin to get into true black history, which is human history, you begin to train yourself every day. When you see a person, see a human being. When you see a person, you can even take it to the level of divinity. The Christ in me salutes the Christ in you. The God in me salutes the God in you. I see you as a divine being. This is African civilization. This was the civilization, not tools. That's colonial. And not the tools are colonial. I'll put it this way. Civilization is an advanced stage in a social development. When human beings interact with each other in advanced manners, we are civilized. Technology is the science of mechanical and industrial arts. It has nothing to do with civilization. Like what I said about history and past events. Civilization is not technology, and technology is not civilization. When you have a civilization, you have a group of people cooperating with one another. That's civilization. What we live in is, again, a colonial society. Therefore, everything is competition. The more we compete with each other, constant competition of trying to get over on you, trying to get over on me, I can't trust you, you can't trust me, we perpetuate the colonial society. The more we can't forgive one another, we perpetuate the colonial society. What you want to do is right after this lecture, forgive one person. Right after this lecture, all of you have been wrong. Everybody in this room, somebody's done something stupid to you. Everybody. Stole money, lied. So you know what it is. Forgive them. Do you have the strength to do that? Because this is the strength that it takes to throw off colonialism. Colonialism can't forgive. There's no mercy with colonialism. You did the crime, you die. That was never your culture. Get back to your culture. What was your culture? You broke the law. Why would you do such a thing? Like, why? First, you're not a criminal because you belong to the family. So somewhere along the line, we messed up to produce you. Why would you do that? Why would you steal from your uncle when you know that is the wrong thing to do? When the whole community comes around its principles, the children have no choice but to follow them. It's when the adults break the law that the children become disobedient. And guess what? In a family, it's women. Women are the center of family, community, culture, nation, civilization, globe. When the woman is corrupt, the whole family falls. Men can be corrupt all day. We live in corruption, okay? Men are corrupt, okay? But nature has set it up where we don't control the family. Nature has set it up where women can have children and take care of their children without men. Nature does this all the time. So how do you get rid of this colonialism? First, get back to your principles. First, realize you're in it. But get back to your principles. You know love is a principle. Follow it. You know forgiveness is a principle. Follow it. You know faith is having courage in yourself and in others, being trustworthy. This is what colonialism has taken from us, and this is what Black history is supposed to put back. Your principles, your character, your soul. Thanks for listening to me today. Thank you. Thank you. Do I still have time for Q&A?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You do.
Come on, jump right in.
So we got roughly 25 minutes. I'm going to hold the mic. So if you have a question, come on up here and let's do this. By the way, how about one more time from Brooklyn, New York? All the way from Brooklyn, New York.
Hey, okay, for sure. And just want to say thank you. And
He's actually
I feel. The section you did on explain the meaning of the word history, you belabored it a bit, but when you brought it home, I got why you were doing that.
Appreciate it.
It's just, it made me think of the way that history is taught and the way it's defined and all these alternative histories that you can find for yourself on the internet.
Right.
And how, that's really where people gotta look nowadays if they want to learn about this shit. And I guess I wanted to ask, do you have any kind of hope for the public education system? Can we get that kind of history into it?
Yeah.
Or do you think, like I kind of do, that the future of this is more in people finding this shit for themselves and being empowered to find that shit for themselves?
All right, let's remember we do have kids in here, so.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
Thank you.
I'm glad you said that. I do have faith in the public school system because I have faith in the teachers. I've met some really astonishing teachers. The teachers there's a silent revolution going on right now with the teachers in the United States. And there's a new breed of teacher that's coming up that has heard the complaints seeing what the situation is, probably had a family member that was a teacher as well, and are trying to improve. I see that a lot of places I go to, and it's also global too. The same educational struggles we're having here in the United States, Africa, Europe, China, even the Caribbean and Australia having the same issues. And the issue is that the education that we're getting is when we get out, we can't eat, we can't do anything with the degrees that we actually have. And people are, they're like, what are we doing? So it's like now it's teachers are beginning to address that issue. This issue is going to be solved like in the next 5 years. This idea of, I would, it's an estimate, I would say 5 years, maybe even 10, maybe even 10, but 5 we might start to see a real improvement. Yeah, well, because and also because of what you said about technology as well, the teachers are going to start putting that technology to better use. A lot of the teachers of the past were blindsided by technology. They didn't really realize themselves what was actually going on, and were still kind of sending kids to the library, and this kind of thing, when the kid was way ahead of them to begin with. So no, I do have faith in the public school system, but again, it's here's the controversial part. Unless it is privatized, I don't think it's going to last. Unless some corporation comes, because that seems to be the only thing that we can have in America. It's like there are no institutions, there are no social institutions financed by the people. All of our institutions of government also is.
Wikipedia.
Say again.
Wikipedia.
Well, let's see how long that lasts. Let's see how long.
Thank you first and foremost for a very enlightened lecture.
Wow.
It was amazing to see somebody come up and talk about unification in a time when so many people are struggling. So that was very nice to hear. My question kind of piggybacked on his. History has a way with the internet of being deleted and being destroyed. What do you think we can do to preserve our history?
Live it. Live it. Cultural anthropology is the best way to join a culture. Live it. Join something that's foreign to yourself. It's the best way to preserve your own culture. The best way to preserve your own culture is to learn about other cultures. Because if you're a human being, your culture is most likely in other people's culture. Just learning your culture from your perspective is kind of limiting. Of course, you got to sit with grandma and grandpa and let them tell you what your history is. But you'll find a lot of your own history and culture in other people's histories and cultures, and you'll be surprised what the connection actually is. So just to answer your question directly, I think the preserving of history has to do with living it and being it. Letting kids see you as the history, as opposed to you pulling the book out and reading or looking at something on the phone. I don't want to be stereotypical, but this is where stereotypes matter. There's a way that American culture depicts all cultures, and it's stupid, it's ignorant, it's like The Sopranos, for instance. Like that is that Italian culture, but America, the only way they can present an Italian is as a mobster. So it's like the only way you could present Chinese people is as kung fu artists. Africans are sports figures. You could only, me, I'm 6'4", I can only play basketball, this kind of thing. But when you are trying to educate children, you kind of could play that up a bit. I am 6'6". I'm not 6', I'm 6'6". And I do play basketball. So it's like I'm living the history of, say, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dr. J. Instead of showing my child a picture of these people who are great, I could just do the moves myself and get it in and do what I got. And they will look and be inspired by that because I'm being the history itself. History should be something you want to become. It should be something that inspires you to want to adopt it, but unfortunately, too many people are adopting negative histories. That's what's really happening. We're adopting the history, but it's not good for us. Good question.
One more. Oh, you know what? I misspoke. He's not from Brooklyn, y'all. Y'all know he's from the Bronx.
No, but I was born in Brooklyn. You were correct.
Yeah, I got it.
No, I don't know Brooklyn.
How you doing? My name's Conscious. I'm a conscious hip hop artist. You've inspired me a lot through my life. So first, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And all of your messages. Know thyself, the conscious rapper blueprint.
All day.
Appreciate that. But what do you think is the artist's role today in creating that culture and that new history to keep everything moving forward?
You know, the artist's role is a matter of character. I never tell an artist that they should be socially conscious. I grew up around too many criminals to actually, some people are just not there. And you have to be born for this. So when you say, or when we say, you know, artist responsibility, should an artist, you know, have some sort of responsibility, you know, approach the public with something positive? I say there's no answer to that because it's an issue of character. For me, if anybody admires anything that I'm doing, I am deeply gratified and would never betray that trust. I take respect seriously. I guess that's an issue of character, I guess. Other people, they're not less than me or more than me. They just don't take revolutionary struggle seriously. They don't take Malcolm X seriously. They don't take their continuation in the struggle seriously. They don't take hip hop seriously. Today, we lost an icon. Icon. Dude named Lovebug Stars.
Damn.
This is the guy that gave us the word hip hop. This is the guy, okay? Lovebug Stars, yeah, hip hop. This is what this dude right here, right? He died today.
Damn.
Today, okay? Now, as a conscious artist, myself, here's what consciousness is. Not so much the words, but 2 weeks ago, I was with him in Las Vegas. I was doing a random show in Vegas. Here comes Lovebug Stars. Most of the shows I do, icons, artists jump on stage. My stage is open. The whole hip hop industry knows that. So here comes Lovebug. He jumps up. He's being my sideman, doing the sideman. So we all looking Lovebug Stars. So I told my crew, I was like, yo, you can't have people on stage. This is afterwards. I was saying, you can't just have people jump up on stage while we're doing this show. We have routines, we have timings. This guy did, you know, he's just on the stage, but we let him up there. He's a family. So he's like, it's Lovebug Stars. Let him do his thing. So he did his thing. He rocked out. He did his thing. He was feeling good. He was up there. We laughed. We hugged. We left. Next day, he sent the text. Yo, and this was the text. He said, his text said, if I died tomorrow, I didn't go. I feel like I did my thing. I performed with KRS One. And he said, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I saved the text. And that was the day after. 2 weeks go by. Today, he's dead. I reached back for the text. The text is Black history. That right there. This is Black history. Right here, right here. This is hip hop history. This is two black men right here. Just before he kicked the bucket, I don't even know, he said he died of a heart attack. So it might have been sudden. He didn't know he was going to go out. He said, if I die tomorrow, and we always talking, I said, Papas, you know, yeah, whatever. Well, look, yo, if I die tomorrow, at least I ain't go out like no sucker. I perform with KRS One. Yeah. That's on his text. Dude died tomorrow. Now I mention that because you say, well, what should the artist? What should you say? What's the artist? Well, if this man meant anything to you, you penning a 16 for him right now. You penning a 6. Thanks for the word hip hop. Thanks for being loved one Starsky. He has children. What are his children supposed to think of their father? Their father laid down the most immutable word ever spoken in our culture. Hip hop. That right there has freed us all. What does his kids get? For that $1 billion word came out of his mouth. What does kids get? It's an issue of character. If you're a conscious artist, you're looking at the kids right now. You're looking at his family right now. You're looking at his legacy right now. You're penning the 16 right now. And I'm sorry, you're writing rhymes. I'm lying. No, you're writing rhymes, and we write them in 16-bar lines. So we say pen a 16. But you want to write a rhyme about him. If you just and look at it, it's not about selling it. It's not about a record deal. It's not about whether you're going to perform it or not. This is your man. This is a cultural icon. Pen 16 form real quick and just boom and know that to yourself. You may get it off. You may be able to do it, whatever. But you know you did that. That's the separation. That's the difference. How do you approach your culture? As a black man, how do you approach your culture? As hip hop, how do you approach your culture? So obviously that's a book you just spoke to us, because there's a whole more to discuss. And are you coming to the show tonight? Damn. I want to see you get on the mic. Come on, I want to hear what you got. But thanks for the question, though. No, the issue of conscious thought is a matter of character. Huh? Of course. Oh, if you want to go, come on.
Okay. Go step to the side. Hey, real quick though, while he's having this good conversation, we have other events coming up. I'm gonna let Dr. Johnson speak on this one real quick. He didn't know he was gonna do this, but there it is.
Hello everyone, I just want to real quick shout out for Dr. A.D. Carson. Will be here on Monday at 6 p.m. in the same location. If you don't know, Dr. A.D. Carson is the assistant professor of hip hop at the University of Virginia at Charlottesville, and he submitted his dissertation as a 34-track rap album last year. So he's going to be here Monday, 6 p.m. in the same room.
That's how you
Flyers are being passed out right now. Keep it coming. Next question. Come on.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's how you feel.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. So I am a teacher and a musician as well, and so this has been endlessly, insightful and incredible. So I teach performance, but I also teach history as well, and specifically history of American music. And it's really hard not to talk about Black history, but what you're saying is kind of bringing a lot of things into focus, or maybe creating some more questions. So I guess what I really like is maybe some advice or your best approach on specifically talking about American popular styles of music, which seem to be relying on the contributions of Blacks in America.
Right. Well, I tell you this. First of all, here's a very controversial statement to say. When you really look at history itself, world history, you notice that there's a weird thing about European invasion or colonialism. It's a weird thing. Is that most cultures, let's say the major states of Africa, let's just say, India, the Aborigines in Australia, Native Americans, indigenous cultures here in the Americas, both Southern and Northern America. Our cultures were not really, if you look at the culture where it is, like look at its present in its past, like look at its past as its present, like what they were thinking 5,000 years ago. You notice that history is not as important as telling the future. The further you go back in history, the more the future becomes more important than the past. Now, I suspect that if you are a first people, the past is not as important to you as your future. Not that you don't have a past, but the importance of your past, the importance of your mental direction is forward. Now, when you're in a colonial society who is documenting captured populations, they're taking a census so they can see how to divvy everybody up. When you're living in that, the history of something like music, for instance, it becomes an escape, like a real escape, because art and music is the one thing colonialism never conquered. And they never conquered it because it requires a soul. And the colonist doesn't have a soul. And I say that respectfully. Or the colonist has a soul, but it's just not turned on. In other words, the soul gives you the ability to empathize with the next person. This is the mark of a soul, is that I can feel you. I can feel what you're going through. I can unite with you, even though I'm not you. I have a soul. I'm more expansive than where I'm standing right here. Well, come back to your question. Your question is profound because when you say, what is the advice? The advice is this. White people have a tendency to preserve all the cultures that they've invaded. I don't know what this is about, but I'm just telling you,